Brawl Stars, it's not balanced right now. So today I'm gonna suggest a bunch of balances that I really hope to see in the next patch notes, hopefully as soon as possible. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and let's start off with the nerfs and one of the most important, Kenji. Man, his hypercharge was truly a game changer. You can get it very fast if you play very aggressive, and honestly, Kenji has been a good brawler ever since his release, so the hypercharge just made him absurdly broken. So, to start off, the hypercharge charge rate would be slightly reduced from 35% to 30%. So instead of needing 2.85 supers, you would now need 3.33. But on top of that, the hypercharge bonus damage would also be reduced from plus 25% to plus 15%. That's super because you push people towards the center, it's pretty much impossible to miss. And each slice deals 3,250 damage. That is just way too much damage. The damage really needs a nerf on this hypercharge, and you just get it way too fast, so hopefully with these nerfs, Kenji will be a little bit more balanced. Next on the list we have Lumi, and Lumi is still just a very versatile brawler. In all honesty, you can never truly go wrong with Lumi, so she clearly still needs a nerf because she just does everything well. So the second star power, the one of the slow duration would be reduced from 2 seconds to only 1 second. The slow, it's just way too powerful, just truly absurd how oppressive that slow is. But on top of that, the super damage amplification would be reduced from plus 20% to plus 10%. So the smaller circle of the super would still deal the usual 2000 damage, but now the second circle will deal 2200 and the third one will deal 2400 instead of 2800. Because the circles get larger, it doesn't really make that much sense to me that they deal even more damage. So hopefully with these nerfs, Lumi becomes just a little bit less versatile. Next on the list we have Hank, and Hank is still very strong. Again, like Lumi, he is not necessarily the most broken thing in the world, but he can be very annoying and he is very versatile nowadays. So what I would do would be to increase his gadget cooldown from 15 seconds to 19 seconds, the shield gadget. It just offers too much value. Crow having 40% shield is one thing, but Hank, a guy with more than double the HP of Crow having a 40% shield, it's just a completely different scenario. On top of that, the heal of his super would be reduced from 50% of the missing HP to 45% of the missing HP. And even though it does not sound like a lot, remember that this is essentially a 10% nerf to the amount that you heal. So it's still a small nerf, but it will make Hank just a little bit less tanky, and having less shields would make Hank again less tanky, so hopefully a little bit less annoying to face off against. Next we have Chester, and just like most of the brawlers so far, he is not necessarily the most broken thing ever, but he's still very oppressive and again very versatile. So to start off, his second gadget, the Candy Beans gadget, would have its cooldown increased from 15 seconds to 19 seconds. You can just spam this gadget way too much, and honestly all of the buffs except for the healing one are really helpful. So having this gadget just so many times in a match feels a little bit unfair. Also, his bug where the acid spray deals double the damage on impact should be fixed. This bug made sense when Chester was reasonably weak, because this made one of his supers a little bit better. But because he's just honestly a very strong brawler right now, it doesn't make really sense for him to still have this bug. On top of that, this would be an indirect nerf to the hypercharge as well, so I'm pretty sure that nerf would also be very welcome in order to make Chester a lot more balanced. Next we have B, and I swear to God that if Supercell just nerfs her second gadget again, I might lose it, because clearly the issue is no longer just the second gadget. So in my eyes, the bonus damage of the charge shot should be reduced from 2.75 times damage to 2.5 times damage. Essentially, the charged shot damage would be reduced from 4,400 to 4,000. it just deals way too much damage, way too much. And hopefully with this nerf, B would be slightly more balanced, really. Next we have Amber, and honestly I just want one simple nerf to her hypercharge. The bonus damage should be reduced from plus 25% to plus 15%. Similar to Chester, if you get the timing of the hypercharge well, this is essentially a guaranteed team wipe. It's so much damage, and because the burning lasts, it can technically extend the duration of the burning of the hypercharge, which already deals bonus damage. So the damage can escalate very quickly with this hypercharge, so a small damage nerf to the bonus damage of the hypercharge for me makes perfect sense. Next on the list we have Buster, and Buster is just still really versatile, so he needs two simple nerfs. Start off the second gadget, it is way too strong. I am surprised that Gray's gadget got nerfed twice, yet this gadget somehow still didn't got a single nerf. It's really impressive. On top of that, the hypercharge charge rate would be slightly reduced from 40% to 35%. So instead of needing 2.5 supers, you would now need 2.85. The hypercharge, it's not that crazy, but the bonus speed and bonus shield, and even a little bit that bonus damage, just allows Buster to play a little bit more aggressively, and the 360 shield, it's really solid still. And especially that second gadget nerf, it just feels necessary, so hopefully with these nerfs, Buster will just be a little bit less versatile. Next we have Bo, and this is a simple one. I want his first gadget duration be reduced from 20 seconds to 10 seconds. Because Bo, it's now, let's say, a good brawler, a A-tier brawler, very versatile in my opinion, I feel like his first gadget should be balanced the same way like most of the other spawner gadgets. Like Leon's invisibility and Stu's speedster, it makes sense that the duration it's not the same as the cooldown of the gadget, because essentially if no one deals damage to that totem, you can have a totem always on the field, and that's just way too strong. And even with this nerf, I still think that Bo would be a very good brawler, so this would probably not hurt Bo way too much. Next we have Angelo, and honestly he has just been on the meta just for so long. Like, I'm not even joking when I say that there was not a single time where Angelo was below the B tier, which is truly insane when you think about it. So what I would do, because he is now again a very strong brawler, especially on the longer ranged maps and in bounty as well, his HP would be reduced from 6,000 to 5,600. And because of how stats work in this game, this would also imply a nerf to his first star power, the healing one, so the heal would also be reduced from 600 per second to 560 per second, and even his first gadget, the damage/heal, would be reduced from 660 to 616. So, with all these nerfs, I just hope that Angelo is easier to kill, because he is very fast, he can deal a lot of damage, his super is really nice, and I just see no weaknesses, so hopefully with less HP it gets a little easier to counter him. Next on the list we have Juju, and Grace damage would be reduced from 1,600 to 1,000. I honestly feel like the pet's HP is no big deal, because a thrower can very easily deal with it, but pretty much every other brawler in the game can deal with it, because it just deals way too much damage. So hopefully with the damage reduction, the pet just becomes a little bit less toxic to face off against, because I am tired of just playing a tank and just suddenly that pet just deals just so much damage. It's really absurd, honestly. And finally, to end the nerf list, we have Carl, and Carl's charge rate would be reduced from 17.5% to 14.3%. So essentially, instead of needing a little bit less than 6 hits to get the super, now you would need almost 7 hits to get the super. In terms of charge rates, this essentially makes the charge rate that the first gadget gives you a little bit less impactful, because now you really need the whole 7 hits, whereas before you needed 6 hits, and sometimes just the burning itself could already turn into less 1 hit, or super recharge rate also made it easier to cycle the supers. Essentially is it's harder to get the super now by a fair amount, by 20% almost. So remember that this is also a nerf to the hypercharge, so now it's also a bit harder to get the hypercharge. And the thing is, again, like most strong brawlers in the meta right now, Carl is really versatile. And I don't think that nerfing his first gadget it's all it really needs, because even Carls with second gadgets that I see from time to time play very well and are a problem. So I'm pretty sure that the charge rate nerf, it is the right way to go for Carl. Now let's talk about some buffs, and let's start with the most obvious one, which is Doug. To start off, heal trait added. I have asked this so many times, but the super revive HP would be slightly reduced from 100% to 66%, just to not make it broken. His first gadget cooldown would also be reduced from 15 seconds to 8 seconds, so now you could spam double heal a lot more often. On top of that, the first gadget would also have a bug fix where the double heal now would also apply to yourself. In case you don't know, even if you use the first gadget which supposedly gives you double the heal, it does not work on yourself, and I'm pretty sure that is not intended, so hopefully with these buffs, Doug actually becomes viable. Next we have Sam, and obviously he needs a rework to the hypercharge. Please just increase the hypercharge rate back to 40%, so instead of needing 5 supers you would only need 2.5, but now the hypercharge would have a couple nerfs. Start off, the super regain ability, it would only happen once the goddess stopped traveling, so if you hit the super against the wall, when the super landed on the floor pretty much, you would get the super immediately back. And these would just make you not randomly spam those supers just so much, like it's insane the hypercharge from time to time. But on top of that, the hypercharge bonus speed of the super would also be completely removed. So it would also not be as easy to spam the super. Essentially, easier to get hypercharge, but nowhere near as toxic hypercharge. So hopefully with these buffs, Sam actually becomes viable again. Next we have Bull, and I also asked this for this one a couple of times. I want his HP to be increased from 10,000 to 11,000. Bull is just not tanky, he doesn't have enough range as well, so the bonus HP would just allow Bull to really get close to the enemies. We all lose the second star power for a good reason. On top of that, because of how stats work, the healing gadget would also have its heal increased from 2000 to 2200, which it's not like you're going to use the healing gadget because of this, but it would also make the gadget choice just a tiny bit harder, I guess. And I just really want to see Bull becoming viable, and hopefully the HP buff would most likely do enough. Next we have Shelly, and at this point, her hypercharge is just so bad that I don't even think 40% is enough. Her hypercharge rate would be increased from 30% to 50%. If brawlers like Carl get to have, or Nita, get to have their hypercharge for 2 supers, I have zero idea why Shelly shouldn't get it as well. Her hypercharge is mediocre at best, and Shelly's just so weak right now. There are just so many better tank counters like Grief or Chess or even Amber, if I'm being honest, and Shelly just does not do enough at all, so getting the hypercharge a lot more frequently would help her so much. Next we have Fang, and I've asked for this one as well a lot of times. Increase the hypercharge rate from 20% to 30%, so instead of needing 5 supers you would need 3.33 supers, but as a compensation the hypercharge bonus damage and shield would both be reduced from plus 15% to plus 5%. The bonus shield makes Fang reasonably harder to kill, and the bonus damage makes his first star power really toxic as well. So reducing those parts of the hypercharge and making the hypercharge actually appear in the match would be just the logical thing to do, and Fang is not even that good right now, so Fang really deserves this hypercharge rework. Next we have Clancy the Lobster, and even with the hypercharge he's still not good, as I predicted. So he needs a bit of a rework. His level 1 it's just way too insanely weak, and his level 3 it's just way too strong, so both of these need some serious balancing. So to start off, the level 1 damage would be increased from 1200 to 1400, which would also make so that his super cost would be reduced from 8 hits to 7 hits. So at level 1 you deal a little bit more damage, and you also get the super a little bit faster. The level 2 damage and super would stay the same, but now at level 2 you also get your movement speed increased from normal to fast. So while it's only at level 3 that you get to very fast movement speed, instead of just going all the way from normal to very fast, now we'd have the level 2, which would be the middle term and where we would get fast. So for me it makes sense to get at least a smoother transition between speed and those levels. And finally we have a couple nerfs to the level 3, so the level 3 damage would be reduced from 1600 to 1400, and the charge rate would be increased from 6 hits to 7 hits, so it would be a little bit harder to get the super at level 3. Then we also have just two other changes to Clancy, so his reload time would also be reduced from 2 seconds to 1.8 seconds. So this would make the star power choice a little bit harder because it gets really bad, that reload time sometimes. So getting the ammo a little bit faster would really be a nice help for Clancy. And finally, his hypercharge rate would also be increased from 30% to 35%. So if I am correct, now you should get the hypercharge just a little bit before reaching level 3. I still feel like Clancy needs all of these changes because Clancy's just so weird to play right now, so hopefully with all of these changes, Clancy will finally become balanced. Next on the list we have Meg, and Meg human form would have a tiny rework. Now each of your tiny projectiles would charge your super in 8.33% instead of the nowadays 12.5%. So instead of needing 8 hits to get your super, now it would take 12 hits. But as a compensation, now your super on human form would also automatically charge in 20 seconds. I don't think that this would make Meg insanely broken, but at least if you're on human form you can actually back off if you feel like from the fight to safely get your robot. But if you still want to try to go to the front line, you can do that and you will charge the super, just not by as much. Each projectile, considering that your super would auto charge itself, each projectile would give you less 4 seconds of wait time. So I feel like that is a really worth trade-off. So hopefully with these buffs, with this one buff and one nerf, Meg would finally become balanced. Next up, Ruffs, and Ruffs drop, now instead of giving to the ally 700 HP, it would instead increase their maximum HP by 12.5%. This would make Ruffs support better, especially with tanks for example, and even with low HP troops. Any ally that would have less HP than Ruffs, which is 5600 HP, those are the only brawlers that would actually get nerfed from this change, so to the majority of the brawlers this would actually be a really good buff. Then we will also have his second star power, which instead of just giving straight up 30 HP, now it would give 0.5% of the brawler maximum HP. It's kind of same idea with his super. It would be good for almost every single brawler in the game, especially with tanks. Rough support is just so boring, so having the possibility to actually increase tanks HP by a lot, it could be really good. And I honestly just really miss people using this second star power. So many people just use the first one right now. The star power choice is just a no-brainer right now. And finally, the last buff that Ruffs would receive would be to his hypercharge. Now, the hypercharge drop exists separately from the original one. This means that if you use a hypercharge super and then a regular super, both of the drops would exist in the floor, and the hypercharge drop would only stop existing when someone either picked it up or when you used another hypercharge super. This would make the hypercharge just a little bit more versatile, but not necessarily broken. And hopefully with all these buffs, Ruff would finally become balanced. Next we have Edgar, and his HP would be increased from 6600 to 7000, and his damage would also be increased from 1080 to 1120. So based on Edgar, really sucks. But as a compensation, his hypercharge bonus stats, the damage and the shield would both be reduced from plus 15% to plus 5%. The thing is simple. Edgar at baseline sucks. Absolutely. Unplayable. But the hypercharge version, it's really good. So nerfing the hypercharge and buffing Edgar feels pretty reasonable in my opinion. And who knows, maybe Edgar might actually be viable after this buff. Next we have Grom, and I honestly really thought that the hypercharge would help Grom a fair bit, but honestly the hypercharge is just not enough. And even if we buff the charge rate, I think that this problem would still be there. So Grom's HP would be increased from 5,600 to 6,200, same as Willow, and on top of that his reload time would be reduced from 2 seconds to 1.8 seconds. Grom is very squishy and cannot at all defend himself. Most of the good throwers in the game right now just have some way of defending themselves. That's what makes them so versatile. Grom cannot do that at all, it's insane. And even though he can be kinda toxic and he's a little bit of a noob stomper, I really don't think that increasing his HP would destroy that many interactions, at least at the lower levels. And having Grom with a faster reload time, it would kinda compensate for those shots that are just so hard to land sometimes. Next we have Willow, and her reload time would also be reduced from 2 seconds to 1.8 seconds. She's kind of a damage dealer, the way you play her. But she just does not have enough ammo to actually do that. So making her have ammo faster would allow her to keep more pressure to the enemies. And her attack is not even that easy to hit because it does not have the most range in the world. So I feel like this is pretty fair overall. And on top of that, her super would have a tiny buff. Now, instead of always straight up healing the enemy to maximum HP, now what it would instead do is that it would heal the enemy for 100% of the damage dealt to him in the past 3 seconds. Essentially, double the Kenji gadget to the enemy. So the only thing that this really changes is that if an enemy was on low HP for a very long time and they try to kill you, they would actually not heal, or not heal as much at least. This would just make Willow a little bit better with the super, because sometimes the super can actually be unhelpful if you accidentally hit a tank, for example, actually at almost dying, and then he just gets full HP. That might actually be a bad thing, so this change would make Willow's super just a little bit better, if I'm being honest. Finally, we have Crow, and his super cost would be reduced from 14 daggers to 11 daggers. It just takes too long to get the super, and he's supposed to be an assassin, so getting that jump more often just feels like it should be the right call. Crow is not that good, he's only really good against healers, and that's pretty much it. The heist rework really affected Crow a lot, so maybe with this buff, Crow might actually become viable again in the meta. Who knows? And there you have it, all of the changes that I really want to see for the next patch notes. What are your thoughts on the changes? Write your opinion down in the comments below. Trust me, I will read them. If you liked the video, do not forget to subscribe and also join our Discord server, link in the description. Thank you so much, and I'll see y'all on the next video.